All right, today we're jumping into a fascinating text that completely reimagines the story of Genesis. Think of it as a grand cosmic epic, one that kicks off not with the creation of the world, but with an incredible, direct vision given to the prophet Moses.
That's really the big question behind the source text we're exploring, Sefer Moses. It takes all those familiar stories and presents them as part of a much bigger vision, one that reveals the deeper purpose behind events we only thought we knew.
Our story doesn't start at the dawn of time. It starts with Moses, on what the text calls an exceeding high mountain. Now, this isn't just a random spot on a map. It's the stage for a direct, face-to-face encounter with the divine that's about to change his entire understanding of reality. And the Creator himself speaks to Moses, promising to show him, well, everything, the workmanship of mine hands. But, and this is a huge but, it comes with a serious warning. Seeing all of God's glory will fundamentally change you. In fact, no one can see all of it and stay in their mortal body. So after this just mind-blowing, transformative experience, the divine presence leaves. The shift is so intense that Moses just collapses, completely overwhelmed. And it's right then, in that moment of total vulnerability, that a new character enters the scene, the Adversary. And this Adversary, who the text also calls Satan, he doesn't waste a single second. He immediately challenges Moses. His demand is simple, but wow, is it audacious. He's trying to step right into God's shoes, saying, Moses, son of man, worship me.
But check this out. Moses' reaction is just incredible. He's just seen true divine glory, right? So he isn't fooled for a moment. He immediately calls him out, asking, where is thy glory? He says it's just darkness to him and declares that now he can tell the difference between the Accuser and Elohim, one of the Hebrew names for God.
So what does he do? Moses calls on God for strength. He uses the divine name Ahyeh, which means I am that I am, and commands the adversary to get lost. And Satan doesn't go quietly, believe me. The text says he cried out and the whole earth shook, but in the end, he's gone. Okay, so Moses has passed this huge test. He's proven he can tell the difference between true light and a cheap imitation. And now, he's ready for the real vision. And it doesn't just pick up where it left off. It expands to a cosmic scale that is almost impossible to wrap your head around.
Moses is shown not just our world, but what the text calls worlds without number. He sees that every single one is inhabited with people as countless as the grains of sand on a seashore. We're talking about a universe that is just absolutely teeming with life, and it's all part of one single, magnificent design.
Can you even imagine seeing that? He's completely overwhelmed. So he asks the most basic, most important question there is, why? Why does all of this exist? What's the point of this infinite creation?
And the answer he gets, wow. It's direct, it's powerful, and it's the central theme of this entire vision. The whole point of this vast, endless creation has a laser-sharp focus, to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of mankind. Okay, so now that we have the why, the big picture purpose, the vision zooms way in. It shifts from the staggering scale of countless worlds down to the creation of our own world, giving us the origin story for us. The creation of Earth is laid out in 6 stages, or degrees, as the text calls them. You'll probably recognize the pattern here. It moves from chaos to order, from an empty world to one bursting with life, and it all culminates in the creation of humankind, the very beings this whole cosmic plan is for. Now, this is where things get really fascinating. The text introduces this idea of a 2-stage creation. It says that everything, every plant, every animal, every person, was first created spiritually. It's like a divine blueprint that existed before anything was ever physically formed here on Earth. So in the Garden of Eden, this all comes to a head with the ultimate choice. Adam and Eve are told not to eat from a specific tree, but the text is incredibly clear on this next part. Nevertheless, thou mayest choose for thyself. The power to choose, to have agency, is baked right into their existence from the very beginning. And of course, that choice leads to what we know as the fall. But this event isn't just about getting kicked out of a nice garden. It completely reshapes what it means to be human. It introduces mortality, struggle, joy, and it sets the stage for the very first family drama. But here's the absolute key. The consequence of their choice isn't just about punishment. No, it introduces this beautiful and essential principle called Teshuvah.
It's a Hebrew word that means return, and it represents the path back to God, a path of redemption, of grace, of second chances. And this is the real game changer in this narrative. Listen to how Eve sees it. She doesn't view the fall as a tragedy at all. She sees it as a necessary step forward. She says without it, they never could have had kids, never known the difference between good and evil, and, get this, never experienced the unique joy of our Teshuvah, the absolute joy that comes from being redeemed.
Well, this new mortal world quickly leads to conflict, and it starts with their sons, Cain and Abel. As you can see here, they both make an offering to God, but the results are night and day. God accepts Abel's offering of the best of his flock, but for Cain's offering from the ground, he just turns away.
So what does Cain do? Instead of turning to God to figure out why, he gets consumed by jealousy and turns to the exact same adversary that Moses faced on that mountain. He makes a secret, dark pact to murder his own brother in exchange for personal gain, and with that, brings the first premeditated murder into the world.
That one terrible act basically splits humanity's future in two. It establishes these two completely different paths you can walk. One is rooted in secret deals, in violence, and in getting ahead at any cost. The other is built on open remembrance, on righteousness, and on staying connected to God.
And here are those two paths, laid out side by side. The way of Cain becomes defined by what the text calls secret combinations. But in total contrast, Adam and Eve have another son, Seth, and his family line is all about preserving that divine connection through written records and open worship.
Seth's family tree basically becomes this lifeline of faith and knowledge. You've got these patriarchs like Enoch, who walked with God, and Noah, who carried that sacred covenant through a world-changing flood, making sure that righteous path wasn't totally wiped out.
So, let's pull this all together. The big takeaways from this incredible vision are pretty clear. First, there's a grand cosmic purpose for all of creation, and it's centered on us. Second, the fall isn't a tragic mistake, but a necessary step up. Third, there's this vital principle of Teshuvah, the path of return. And finally, right from the beginning, humanity is presented with two opposing ways to live.
And this whole narrative leaves us with a really profound question to chew on. If the fall isn't some tragic ending, but a required beginning to experience the joy of our redemption, what does that tell us about how essential things like choice, opposition, and even our own mistakes are in the grand pursuit of eternal life?